Hi guys, we are here with the wonderful Ross Mandell, and there's so much to say about this man. I'm blown away. But first, and people can find you, you have a whole bio on your website, rossmandell.com. I'm not going to try to read your bio right now. I want to get directly into, like, let's start with your childhood.
Let's do it.
Like you were born in Brooklyn,
Correct.
then moved to Long Island. You completed high school with notable achievements. Then you got your bachelor's degree from the University of Maryland. Did you like school? That's question number one.
You know what?
Did you like it?
I'll say like this. I did enjoy school.
You
I
did.
enjoyed school life. I enjoyed learning. I really enjoyed reading. I don't like writing much. I never did. They used to say, you used to practice when you're a kid how to sign your name. I still can't sign my name
What?
the same way twice. I cannot do so. Some people are artists, they're artistic. I have no artistic gene. It's bad. I wanted to play an instrument. I studied piano. I studied guitar. I so badly wanted to strum a guitar, around a fire or sing a love song to my girlfriend and just zero musical talent, zero
Nothing.
artistic talent. I mean, it's just I'm amazed at like some people they're just so, artsy, folksy, craftsy, and I missed out on all of that stuff. So a lot of people say, "Oh my God, you're so good at this, you're so good at that." And okay, I do have some, God has blessed me with some talents in my life, but when it comes to like artsy stuff, penmanship, zero in me. It's not even a little. And I'll be honest, Catalina, I tried very hard to play piano and to play guitar and to paint and to all these things. Now, I'm a great writer because I'm a reader. I've been reading books like since I'm a baby, and I went to prison for quite some time. And, I love when guys say I read a lot. I have a friend, he did like 10 years. He said, I read 100 books. I read a book every 2 or 3 days for 8 straight years. And I read
Wow.
all the classics. I love reading. I've read, Dostoevsky, you know. I
Dang.
read War and Peace. I read Shakespeare. I mean, I really enjoy reading. It's probably my passion. And then when I
Hmm.
got out, I fell in love with Netflix because I was like, this is unbelievable. No commercials. You could just watch. I would watch when I was in home confinement for about almost 20 months. So I was basically locked in the house. And after being locked in prison, being locked in the house is quite a treat.
Okay.
And then I
I
discovered
bet.
this Netflix. I'm like, this is crazy because I love movies. I love film. I love television. I love podcasting. I'm
So,
a fan.
what about, yeah, what's your favorite book and favorite movie?
That's a really, these are tough questions. I have like, I have like top 20, I would say War and Peace. I would say that a lot of people talk about it and it's a tough read and I avoided it for a lot of years. And if you actually sit down and you have the nerve and the courage to read it, my God, what a story. It's like, what? I mean, you don't want it to end. It's so amazing. And you learn all about, Russia and Napoleon and the generals and, the characters that are just so unbelievable. So, you wonder why people talk about it as, it's such an amazing book. Movies, The Godfather. I mean, what an amazing movie. Casablanca.
So the classics.
Yes, The Maltese Falcon. I loved Humphrey
Wow.
Bogart. But this movie, The Wolf of Wall Street, that everybody has become like a cult classic. Everybody is asking me, am I going to be the next one in this series? And there's no series, but I have been approached by
Hmm.
several major production houses, and I was just approached by a major filmmaker.
Well,
Yeah, and they asked me if I would be willing to discuss it and explore it, and I said certainly. big name. Just happened like 3 days ago. So you're hearing
That's
it here first. Yeah,
amazing.
yeah, yeah. I'm very, very. I believe the Wolf of Wall Street. People want to know. People want to know about the inside of the stock market, what really happens, what really goes
Right.
on. People are very interested in like my life. You know, you were making all kinds of money, and you were buying and selling stocks, and I went public on the London Stock Exchange. I'm the first American ever to bring a regulated American company public on the London Stock Exchange. And I did it
Pretty
twice
wild.
before anybody did it once. And it was quite an adventure. And I had a sort of a wild crew of guys. And I had thousands of employees. We were much, much bigger than Jordan Belfort's firm that was basically Long Island based. We were literally on Wall Street and in the city of London. I know that you're a sort of a European gal, right?
Mhm.
And so my story is a story of America and Europe. It took place in the United Kingdom and Spain and south of France, and that's where our journeys took us. I had a fund that also I took public, and
Hmm.
there's some great stories and great adventures, but a lot of cool stuff. And there's a lot of things that I think the public wants to learn about.
Hmm.
People want to know what it's really like. And for years, Wall Street kept a lid, very careful. We handle your money. We're very respectable. We're very trustworthy. We wear dark suits and conservative ties, and don't bother us because they don't want to be revealed. And the guys that, manage your money and manage the capital for nations and banks, just a bunch of wild men, mostly alpha
Hmm.
males that, drive expensive cars and run with fast women and drink expensive booze and take a lot of drugs and do all kinds of
Hmm.
things. That's reality, People, they want to sell you this sort of button down conservative image. And
And it's not
it's
true.
not like that.
Wow.
Exactly.
So very interesting. Are there any hidden knowledge you gained while working at Wall Street?
A lot. A lot.
Such as?
Well, you're a beautiful woman. You're
Thank you.
sophisticated, right? You said to me earlier you're born in Romania and raised in Italy, right? You have that little savoir faire. I would tell you that I was in the money business, right? That's Wall Street, capital. I learned that it's an aphrodisiac. It's an aphrodisiac, just like good wine and some other things. And I learned that, to most people, this is something that was shocking to me, that their money they hold more important than their health and their family.
Dang.
And that's something that really shocked me. I've had surgeons that I knew were in surgery that when I called them on the phone, they left people on the table to take the call. I'm like, listen, I just left a message. They said, no, the markets are open. You got to talk to me. What are we doing? Are we buying? Are we selling? Do we buy? Are we selling puts? Are we buying calls? What are we doing? Should I go short as a time? And meanwhile, there's some guy, Mr. Jones, is on the table. Someone's holding his kidney in one hand and he's on a pump. And I'm like, bro, relax. I mean, and he says, no.
Wow.
And yeah, and I know men that they held their money was more important to them than their wives, their children, and their health and all these different things. And I learned a lot of things about the human psyche, what people hold dear to them. And that to me was one of the most surprising things. And that markets are alive. They're live things.
Hmm.
Markets are alive, and they're living and they're breathing and they're reacting and they're sensitive, and it's exciting. That's why I think that people are turned on by things related to Wall Street, the stock markets. It opens at 9:30 in the morning in America. It closes at 4, and there's so much action. And I think today they say roughly $2 trillion, in securities trade hands during that period of time.
Wow.
One guy's
Right.
running to sell, he wants out, and that another person is running to buy. So you're selling and he's buying what you're selling. You know what I'm saying? That's what makes markets. You know, this guy wants out and you want in, and you brought together to make a deal. And to me, it's very interesting and
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
exciting.
fast
And
paced.
when you're in that game, you really, if I did it my whole life, right? So I went in when I started really in 82, 83. I started at E.F. Hutton. I was registered in 84, and I was there till 2010, according to the United States government. A day doesn't go by that I don't watch CNBC or Fox Business or look at the financial section. No,
Good choices.
it's an addiction, I'm always in, and it's became part of me. You know what I mean? It's part of me. And that whole lifestyle
Yeah.
was so sexy and robust. It was robust. My life was full.
Very interesting. That to me, kind of that whole picture you depicted, it sounds like the devil's playground. And then what I got out of what you told me was the fact that I shouldn't mess around with any Wall Street person.
See, I disagree. I
Really?
disagree because it's exciting. It's one of the things I think that made me attractive to people was because people were attracted to my energy, because it's a high energy game. It's not for everybody, but if you like excitement and if you're attracted to energy, it's very fulfilling. It can be.
Yeah, but do you love your wife more than money, or do you love money more than your wife?
Well, I'm currently divorced, but
Okay.
I
Yeah, you're
I
good.
love my wife. I married only once. A lot of people meet Stephanie and say, "Oh, she's what, your second wife, your third wife?" She's very gorgeous and she looks much younger than me. Well, pretty much everybody looks younger than me now. But I'm 67, and she was, I think, 17 years younger than me. Beautiful woman, and I was very much in love with her, and she came to work for me. It's a great story, and we were married a couple of years later, and we eventually got divorced right towards the end of my prison. I was away for many years, and
She waited for you.
she did, and she's always been
Wow.
like my best friend. We have two beautiful children together, two daughters, and we're all very, very close. And I consider her my partner in life, and she'll always be the mother of my children, and like my best friend. I mean, it's to
That's
me,
nice.
family is the most important thing. The family is not just the people that have the same DNA that you do, the same blood that you do. There are members of my family that I'm not close to at all. And then there are certain men and women that I call family that are relationships that I've had with men and women, during the course of my life. I think you understand what I mean. I'm not playing. I'm
Yeah.
not trying to play with English, but with language. But you don't pick your parents, but you pick your mate, your significant other. Your children. If you're blessed with children, to me that's like a big God thing. But you do pick. A man can pick the sort of mother of his children, and a woman could pick who she wants to father her children. To some extent, the people that become your family, I think, are the people that are the closest to you, the people that you love and trust. I think those are
Right.
two big words: love and trust. And I think
Agree.
that transcends money and fun and excitement and all that kind of stuff. And it's always been hard for me to trust, but I'm a loving type of guy, and I'm adventurous and all that kind of good stuff. I am single, ladies, so I just want you to know I'm back on the market,
Ladies.
and it's pretty cool, Catalina. Really,
Yeah, and he's got some good game here, so yes. And he's not your typical Wall Street guy.
no.
So that's very important. I want to go into a little more like into the depth of you, besides being the successful finance guru. I'm going to read a little quote here. The loss of your father, something really deep. The loss of your father in 1973 was a profound setback, and that led you to struggles with addictions, right? Battles you courageously fought for many years. I want to know, and I think you went into rehab in 1990, and that was an inspiring journey that I would like to know more about. Many of our listeners, and I know in today's society, a lot of people are, facing their own battles with addiction or depression, especially depression in this day and age. Based on your experience, what practical advice would you offer someone who is currently struggling and might feel overwhelmed about taking the first step towards recovery?
This is a really amazing question. Thank you. And it's profound. And I will tell you that the most important step is the first step. And, I'll tell you a brief story that I was raised. My mother was a very, very tough person. And my father passed when I was 16. And my mother was never, I don't think my mother ever kissed me or hugged me my whole life. She recently passed away. She passed away this past July.
Wow, I'm so
in
sorry.
Israel, but she was with my brother and her grandchildren, etc. And she had a pretty good life, very interesting life. And I was raised. I have a younger brother, and I was raised to you stand on your own 2 feet. You're a man. Your responsibilities. You never point a finger. You really like old school man of men, women of women, and this type of a thing. And so I was a really great kid, I like to say, normal kid. I was an athlete. I was a student. I liked to read. I was shy a little bit early on, and then I had girlfriends. Like I was a healthy 16-year-old kid, right? Very fit. I was in a wrestling team. I played football and had a girlfriend. And so I was sort of normal, right? And then my father dropped dead very suddenly. And he was my best friend. He was my whole world. And I was God-fearing. I like to say I was God-fearing because I was. I believed in God. And I believed that my family was blessed. I was blessed. We were like a good family. There was no hatred. There was no complaining. We were all went about our lives trying to always do better and get more. And then my father dies. I find out that everything we had was mortgaged, borrowed, and leased. We didn't own anything. And
Wow.
the day my father passed away, all my sort of plans went out the window. I was headed to an Ivy League school, and I was going to do this, and I had a lot of different plans. And my dad was my North Star, my compass. And I went crazy, Catalina. I just went crazy. I was angry. And I was angry at God because my dad was the best guy I knew. And there was a lot of guys in the neighborhood, men in the neighborhood that were really not good people and like bad men. I mean, all kinds of stuff. And you find in any community. And my dad was one of the guys who was loved and he was good and went to work every day and he took responsibility. And so I went crazy and I basically started acting out with drugs, with alcohol. I was very fit. I was a fighter and I became like a bad kid.
Wow.
I did things that, I'm not proud of and used drugs. I used alcohol. I used fast cars. I used women. I used money. I just wanted to get out of pain. It was like every day I woke up in pain and I spent the day trying to figure out, how can I just get away from my feelings? Now, I didn't know this sort of terminology. I was just reacting. I wasn't really in thought about this whole thing. And it got so bad where the school, and the police even got in touch with my mother and said, Ross is, he's doing some bad things. He's hanging out with bad kids. We want to get him help because I was known like as a good kid. And I had a really solid, I was one of the, in my graduating class in high school, there was 624 kids. I was ranked number 6 out of 624. A grade point average, and my test scores, my standardized test scores, very good because I was a reader. Like I said, I like to read. I'm reading since I'm a little kid. My dad was a member of book clubs. We used to go to book clubs and go to the bookstore, twice a week. And, I was encouraged to do all these things, and I loved it. My brother became one of the most famous journalists in the history of the state of Israel. He actually just retired.
Wow.
He had a TV show 5 nights a week, 2 hours a night for the last 7 years. He goes by the name Kalev Ben David. And he literally just announced his retirement. He was from I-24. He was all over the world, broadcaster in English from the state of Israel.
His name sounds familiar because I lived in Israel for 4 years. Sounds
Wow.
very familiar.
So, Channel 24, ITV,
Yeah.
I-24 in Tel Aviv.
He was on that?
He was the leading journalist. He had a show
My
called
gosh.
The Rundown every night for 2 hours, 5 days a week for like 7 years. Very, very famous, very respected.
Very interesting.
And he used to fly in like their version of Air Force One with Bibi Netanyahu, all these different things. But to make a long story short, we were readers, and our dad was our North Star. And when my dad passed, he was still young. He was 13. I was 16. And I basically left home and just checked in, but never really came back. And then went off to school. I had already had scholarships because I was a good athlete. I was a great student, etc. And my family could no longer afford to send me to the University of Pennsylvania or Columbia. So I went to a state university my freshman year and transferred to the University of Maryland. But I want to say I knew I had issues, but I didn't care at this point. And I was so angry, and I was very fit, and that anger sort of propelled me to do all kinds of things and accomplish stuff as a young man. And eventually, one day, I'll flash forward to 1990, November of 90. I get out of the Silver Hill Foundation in New Canaan, Connecticut, where I did go for a 28-day program. I committed myself. I got sober. I got clean and sober. And I was introduced to AA and the 12 steps. And I did something that changed my life profoundly, and I would urge your listeners to please focus on what I'm going to say. They say in the beginning of every meeting, every recovery meeting, is there anybody that is here visiting from another group or visiting from out of town that would like to say hello, that would like to introduce themselves to the group? So I had been told to do this, and I really wasn't sure if I would do it, but I stood up and I said, yes, hi, my name is Ross. I'm an alcoholic and a drug addict, I'm pretty sure. And I just got out of rehab. I spent 28 days in a rehab facility in Connecticut. And I don't know anybody in New York City that's not a drug addict, an alcoholic, a limo driver, etc. And if any of you would care to give me your phone numbers in case I need to ask some advice, I could really appreciate the help. So I asked for help. I was the first time in my life I asked for help because I didn't believe in that. A real man doesn't do that. I was told that a real man takes responsibility for his actions and picks himself up, and, you don't ask for help. And that was like burned into me. You don't make excuses. You just do. You man up. That's an expression, right? Man up. Tighten up, Catalina. And so, like a tough guy, right? And I stood up and I said this to this room full of 60 people I'd never seen before at this AA meeting on Sea Street and Park Avenue. It's called Midtown. At least it was. I think it's still there. It's been there 30 years. And like 15 people came running over to me and handed me their phone numbers. I couldn't believe it.
Wow.
And then I spent some time with these people and all that. And then I went to another meeting that first night. I went to the 10 a.m. meeting. It's called the Beginners Meeting at the 79th Street Workshop in New York City. The corner of 79th Street and First Avenue. It's on the northeast corner next to the Greek diner in the church. You walk down the steps, and it's a beginners meeting. It goes from 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock at night, 7 nights a week. And the reason why it's late is if you got sober and you're new, you don't really sleep much the first year.
Wow.
So you need something to do, right? Instead of looking at the walls, right? So they have a beginners meeting. and that became my home group. And I stood up there and I said the same kind of thing. Ross, no second name. I believe I'm an alcoholic and I'm a drug addict. I just got clean. I'm never been clean since I'm a grown up, since I'm an adult. I need help. If any of you would care to give me your phone number or maybe have coffee with me after the meeting. And like 15 people came running over to me. And, I learned something. And I'll tell you, I'll share it with you in the audience. So, it got to the point where I would fly into all these different cities in business. I was selling things. I was in the handbags business, selling ladies' handbags to stores all over the country before I discovered Wall Street. And I would travel from time to time. I could fly into a city and I could find the best drugs and the best bars within an hour. I knew this is before Google, cell phones, no internet, no cell phone. I was able to just, fly in, talk to the car rental people, go to the hotel, talk to the valet parking people, the concierge people, whatever. And within an hour or two, I know the coolest clubs to go to, where I could get coke, where I can get quaaludes, where I can get, ecstasy, all the different type of things. And I learned very quickly, if you're looking for this kind of thing, you can find it. What I learned that night, November the 8th, 1990, it was actually November the 9th, I believe. November the 9th, 1990. I learned that if you're looking for good, that's easy to find too. If you're looking for help, that's easy to find. Okay? Just like I knew for years, if you're looking for the bad, if you're looking for trouble, you know what? The universe is going to say, here you go. No worries, I got you. But I never really realized that there's so many good people. There's so many people that want to extend a hand, and you have to be willing. You have to be willing. So, we talk about, willingness is one of the keys to getting well. You can be depressed. I understand that. Shit happens. But are you willing to get out of depression? That's a big question. Some people are very happy being down and out. I hate to say they wallow instead of, you can't think your way into good acting, Catalina. You can't say I'm gonna get better. I'm gonna feel good. No such thing. But you can act your way into good thinking. You can act your way. So action is a precedent. It precedes emotion. And that's something that I actually learned on Wall Street as part of motivation and selling and all the good things that I learned how to become sort of this alpha male type. Action is a precedent to emotion. You want to feel good? Go take a walk. Put a smile on your face. Even if you feel like shit, smile. Do that for 5 minutes. You'll be shocked. A few minutes later, you'll be like, all of a sudden, you're going to feel okay. It's shocking. Yeah. So you can act your way into good feeling.
Love it.
But you have to act. You have to take action. You have to be willing to take action. And if you want help, blessings, you have to be willing to ask for it. I want you to know it was one of the hardest things I ever did. It was harder for me to do that than walk into prison. I'm being honest with you. Standing up in front of a room full of people and say, I need help. I'm Ross Mandell. I need help. I felt so exposed and so naked and so raw. And I was like, what? I thought people were going to laugh at me. I didn't even know what they would. I didn't even really know what was going to happen. But I never expected all these really crazy, these good people come running over to me. Beautiful women and nice guy. I'm friends with some of them to this day.
Wow.
35 years later.
That's amazing.
Correct.
All that because you put pride aside and said you leaned into that humble angle and asked for help.
And I listen, and they it was suggested to me, and I said, no, I can't. I'm not. That's not for me. I'm not going to do that. I pushed back. It wasn't like somebody said it to me. This is what you should do. And I said, okay. It was like brutal for me. What do you mean? I'm supposed to stand up in front of a room full of people and tell them I'm not okay? Who does it? Who are these people? But, I was all worried and paranoid. Like, it's, you get so caught up in your own nonsense sometimes. You lose sight of reality. I was living in a crazy world. So they say, one of the problem with people that are depressed, that have addiction, suffer from alcoholism or drug addiction, they spend too much time in a bad neighborhood. So I'm like, what neighborhood is that? And like, here, between your ears. You got to get out of your own head. You understand?
Yes.
Because we get caught up in this whole right here. This neighborhood is very dangerous sometimes.
And you know what? Whenever you asked for that help, all these people coming to help you was actually what helped them. Because once you start helping someone, you help yourself. So you initiated that whole thing of amazing, that collaboration of uniting and helping each other out, which is all it took was one person to take that one step, and that was you.
Correct. And so and I'll give you one more example because it's a great topic. So I'm back now. I'm out of rehab, and I go back to Wall Street. So I always like to say, I went down to Wall Street in 1984, opened up my own stock account. I put $1,500 in it, and by 1987, March 18th, 1987, I had $30 million. I'm really good at this. I'm really good at trading this business, etc. I get it. I understand the games. I understand the way markets work, the way stocks trade, all these different things. That's before a lot of the technology we have today. Again, before Google, before cell phones, all these different things. I understood the rules were a little different. I had access to all kinds of special deals and all these different things. And I'm happy to share more about that. But what I also like to say is by November 1990, when I got out of rehab and went back to Manhattan and my life, I owed $1 million. Not only did I lose the whole 30 million and probably 5 more on top of that, but I actually owed $1 million. And it was probably more than $1 million, but I could, once I sat at my kitchen table and looked at everything I owed and this and that, when it hit $1 million, I just stopped. I just said, I'm fucked. It's over. I'm a dead man.
How did you?
And I made a decision that everybody said that, I still had, good tax guys and lawyers and all these different things because I'm a big Wall Street guy. I just changed my wife now. And everybody said, just you go into bankruptcy. You write it all off. You start fresh. I said, no, I'm not doing that. I said, I didn't get clean and sober to play games like that. I look back now, bankruptcy is entirely legal, and I should have done that, but I was very obstinate. I wanted only cash register honesty. I didn't want to just declare bankruptcy and now I don't owe anybody any money. I mean, I thought that was a little bit shady. So I addressed everything. I started paying everybody back. I reached plans. When you tell people you want to, pay them back and make good, and you call them, they don't have to chase you. They respond different. When somebody's chasing you because you owe them and you don't answer the phone, then one day they get you. Don't be surprised if they're nasty. But I was calling everybody, including the IRS and the government and the state, and everybody was pretty fairly reasonable. And I just started paying everybody back. And so I'm working out for a few months. I got right back into work. Now I'm sober. I'm sharp. I'm clear. I'm not spending money on drugs and alcohol. And I'm starting to kill it. I'm doing well, but still I owe a lot of money. Even if you make $100,000 in a month and you give up and you pay back, let's say 70 or 80,000, you still owe 900,000. It was a big, I owed a lot of money. It took me more than almost a year and a half to pay back, but
that's not bad.
I'll never forget. I'm in AA now. I'm in the program and I have a sponsor. And he calls me up one Saturday and he says, how you doing? I said, I'm miserable. He says, what? You're clean, you're sober, you're working. And I said, yeah, bro, I'm just fucked. I said, I owe all this money. I'm never going to get, pay this back. I can't believe this. I had so much money. How did I fuck this up? I'm a mess. I'm stupid. I'm beating myself up. He says, I want you to come meet me. Yells at me. I said, what? He says, I want you to come meet me. At the time, I lived on 63rd between 2nd and 3rd Avenue in a place called the Renoir House in Manhattan. east side of Manhattan. I had a luxury apartment, beautifully interior decorated, design it and all these different things. And I'm sitting here, I'm depressed. I'm feeling sorry for myself. And so I go, I don't feel like really going out. He goes, get your ass up and out that door and meet me. And he gives me an address up on, 15 blocks from my house. Not a big deal. I said, bro, I really don't want to do anything. He says, I'll be there in 15 minutes. Don't make me wait. He was a serious guy. I asked him to be my sponsor, to help me through the program. So, all right. So I throw on some pants and I walk outside, and I don't remember if I took a cab, but I get up there and he's waiting on the street corner all the way on the east side of Manhattan. I forget, East 60s, 70s, and it's been a minute. And I said, where are we going? He goes, just follow me. And we walk into the biggest cancer hospital, a place called Sloan Kettering, a very famous cancer hospital. And right on the first floor was the pediatric ward. And we just tell you something like 85% of the kids that walk into Sloan Kettering never leave. They go out in a body bag. And it was like Saturday or Sunday. I think it was Saturday morning. Parents, it's a big ward, and we go in, and he goes regularly. They knew him. We go right in, and you see all these kids. Many of them have, no hair. They're all got IVs and all this and that. And we walked through, and I'm looking at the kids, and the parents is what I was really looking at. You have these parents that are spending time with their children in the cancer hospital, and they're so trying to be upbeat, and they have toys and, stuffed animals and all kinds of little things and coloring books, and there's a lot of little banter back and forth. And
yeah, Russ.
So you understand, I'm looking at the parents and they're looking at me, and you could see in their eyes the pain that these people had, because many of them knew their children were, at the end, or suffering and we're never going to leave and all these things. I just want you to know, I never really felt bad for myself again after that. I left that day and I was crying just like you. I had trouble not crying when I was there, because I was watching the parents look at the kids and trying to, one guy was building like this, like little airplane out of little balsa wood, one of these little planes, and the kid was so happy, and he had, tubes in his nose and his arms, and he looked like he weighed about 10 pounds. But he was, with his dad and his mom, and they were and I was looking at this man, and, he's looking at his son. My father had passed, and this guy was going to lose a child. And it was horrible, it was a horrible moment for me, but it was a very meaningful exercise. If you really want to talk about pain, and you want to talk about loss, and you want to talk about, depression and all these different things, I mean, this to me was really, my values, like I would die for my children, 100 out of 100 times. One thing to lose a parent, another thing, and I can't say, but to lose a child must be, to me, is so, that was something that this showed me, that experience. So, years later, when I was mentoring and sponsoring other young men that were recovering from addiction and alcoholism, etc., I've done that same thing with other men.
Wow.
And it's something that's really meaningful, because, it's very easy to really get down on yourself and to beat yourself up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And again, the lesson was, I took action. And I didn't want to do it. I was very happy being depressed in my house on Saturday morning, wondering if I'm ever going to have money again, and if I'm going to be a big shot, and if I'm going to, be a big player, and, all these different things. And here I am. When I walked out of there, I felt like I weighed 10 pounds, like I was floating. I was just so grateful. I was so grateful that I just had a money problem and not
a real problem.
Well, that's what I had, an issue. A very wise guy, one of the wisest men in the world once said, anything that can be solved with money or by time is an issue, not a problem. So if anything that can be cured or solved with money or by money or time, it's an issue. It's not a problem. These people were facing a real problem. You understand?
I sure do.
So,
wow.
I'm sorry to get into such a crazy answer, but
Love it.
I'm just sharing some of my life experience and the many experiences of Ross Mandell here.
So powerful. Ross, how do you justify that suffering? How do you justify seeing all those children having cancer? Why do you think God is allowing that?
I studied a lot of scripture, okay, and I had a lot of
Okay.
time while I was away, especially. So all my life, I like to look at myself as like a junior theologist. When I was
Right.
inside, I read the entire Hebrew. I read the Old Testament, all the scripture. I read the New Testament, and I read all those writings, and I read the entire Quran. I actually studied with a Muslim group while I was inside. The Quran, a brilliant, brilliant scripture. And I read the Hindi. I read Taoism, and all these different things. And we're just man. We're human beings. I believe in God. I believe in a higher power. Okay. Now, God died for me. He died. He was dead to me on September the 27th, 1973, when my father passed away. God died for me that day. I rediscovered him in after I was clean and sober, sometime in 1991, like March of 91. But I realized that he never left me. It's easy for me to explain. I believe in a higher power. I choose to call God. It's an easy word for me. I used to have a big problem with the word God. They teach you in the program good orderly direction, all these different things. But, you could call, a lot of people believe in the universe, the power of the universe, manifestation, law of attraction. I believe in all that stuff, just so you know. But it's very easy for me to just refer to it as God. We don't have enough time to discuss the whole thing. And I say like this. They say that as a man, I can see in front of me and I can see behind me. Only God can see around the corners. In almost all scripture, universally, in all scripture, it talks about the sins of our fathers. That for generations, God he's a jealous God, and he's a tough God.
Jealous?
Well, yes,
More like
he's very
more like
jealous.
just
If you
or just
look
or
at
right.
what the Ten Commandments, thou shalt have no other gods before me. And he said in the translation from ancient Sumerian, they believe the word is actually jealous. He says, I am a jealous God. He does not want any other gods before him, hence no idols. It's why the Jews and the Hebrews have no tattoos, because idols, and think about idols today, the show American Idol. Think about how we treat our celebrities, sports athletes, movie stars. Thou shalt have no other gods before me, for I am a jealous God. That's literally the translation that many Orthodox people that study Scripture believe. I believe that. Remember, we were made in God's image. And from the rib of Adam came Eve. So we are God's masterpieces.
Right.
God created us in his image. Each one of us has God inside us. Each one of us is a masterpiece. But all scripture says another thing. It says that, talks about the sins of our fathers for generations. He will punish. So if you commit a sin, a certain sin, a mortal sin, for 3, 4, 5 generations, you might carry this sort of curse. Now, in all the scriptures, they also believe the wisdom in all these different scriptures, because I've read all the small print and I've discussed it with rabbis and different people that study scripture and make a business out of it. And because of the internet and Google and all these different things, I'm able to read all kinds of stuff that I would never have access to before. And they talk about you can reverse this sort of punishments. They're not really considered punishments. They're called judgments. A judgment is, They say that every day, God or the universe gives you a choice. Every day you're presented with something where if you select one way, it's a blessing. And if you go the other way, it's a judgment. But then later on in the Kabbalah, it says there are no judgments, just lessons. So, you can't explain, why, Hitler was able to survive and you have evil people that torture, maim, kill, abuse, all these different things. But, really, that's not God. That's the absence of God. Really, the way I see it, that's man. We've been given free will and we've been created with God in us. The Orthodox Hebrews believe that you have everybody has two souls, an animal soul and a spiritual soul, and which soul you feed is the one that becomes dominant.
Nice.
And I really believe that stuff. So
that's good, yeah.
I believe that I have a spiritual side, but I also have an animal side. And I've seen both. They believe everybody's like that. And, it's not for me to question God. I question God every day. Why did he send me to prison? I didn't commit a crime. All the things that I was convicted of never even happened. It was sold to a jury in a courtroom. No evidence of all of me. It was just the word of 3 or 4 people that were committed crimes and lied about it. And I went away and I tortured my family and all these different things.
My.
And we don't know, but I learned to let things go. I believe, Catalina, I was sharing this with somebody earlier today. I'm in the effort business. Okay. Every day, Ross Mandell gets up and I say, I'm going to be happy today. I'm have a good day. I get that choice. Nobody in this world can tell me how I'm going to feel. I get a choice. So I choose every day to have a good day. And I also choose to try and accomplish whatever I want to accomplish today. I don't just get up and say, I'm going to hang around today. I always have some sort of purpose in my day. And I try to accomplish something and all that. I'm in the effort business. I teach my kids this. Do the best you can. You do the best you can. God is in the result business.
Nice.
And that's the story of life to me. You do the best you can. Catalina, my father died suddenly. He was never sick a day in his life. And he was a beautiful person. He was a good man. And he died suddenly. And I watched my mother have a nervous breakdown and go into the bedroom and basically not get out for a year. My brother closed his door, didn't want to talk or see anybody for a year. And me, I just left the house and went crazy. And what did we do? Why did God do this to my family? So that's where I've said, being a good person doesn't matter. You can be a great person and fucking just drop dead. Fuck it, I'm just going to go out and do whatever I want. Anything that makes me feel good, I'm going to do. I was talking to a guy earlier today and he told me, he can go out in the morning and one day in the summer he could drink 18 beers. It made him feel good. You know what? Okay, I get that. I could never drink 18 beers. I don't know how anyone could do that, but I would rather take like 8 shots tequila. That I did and had 3 beers. But, it's just like I just did what made me feel good because it didn't matter. Why would I show restraint? It doesn't matter. I could be dead tomorrow. So God was dead to me, literally. And I rediscovered God, literally, 16 years later, 17 years later.
I don't think God is shaking us to torment us. I think perhaps he's presenting us that crossroad where we can pick.
Correct.
We're going to take this road, or are we going to take the self-destruction road?
Right. I agree.
So that's that moment where you have to really, when you get hit with those shocking moments in your life, because we all go through some type of trauma, that's when you're like, oh gosh, now I'm being tested.
I believe every day is a test, Catalina. I really believe that.
Yeah.
I sincerely
Are we grateful?
Yeah.
Even being grateful. Are we grateful? Is this a test? This is a gift. Basically, God is gifting us life. Are we grateful for that today?
Yeah, I believe that. I think that, we have a choice to have a good day or a bad day. I choose to have a good day today. I knew I was going to meet Catalina Magee today, God willing.
Right? What a blessing.
And I said, let's go. Let's do it, baby. I'm in. I am in. I'm not even in Las Vegas.
I know. What is your deepest existential question?
My deepest existential question.
Yeah, this girl is deep today on you, boy.
You weren't kidding when you told me you're going to challenge me. I mean, this is really, I'll say like this. So I feel like I've lived. If my life was a book, which it will be, a movie or a Netflix series, which could be, there would be different chapters, right? And different seasons. So I was a good kid at 16 years old. My world was rocked. My dad passed away. From 16 to 33, I was this young, wild man with rockets in my pockets. Somehow I got through college. Somehow I survived Manhattan in the 80s and the 70s and, into the 90s, Wall Street, millions and tens of millions of dollars. I mean, I was wheeling and dealing and trading with tens, really hundreds of millions of dollars. Then all of a sudden, 90 comes, I'm 33, and now I'm stone cold sober and I'm broke, right?
Wow.
But now I'm understanding, I'm learning about the principles of, gratitude and depression, how to ask for help. I was lonely because I had lost all my best friends, alcohol, pills, powders. It was no fun going to a bar anymore if you don't drink and you sit there, you feel like an idiot. You know what I mean? I'll have a cranberry and soda. Like, what? How long do you want to sit at a bar and listen to all this nonsense, right? I used to sit at a bar for 5-6 hours and I was having a great time drinking martinis and, shots, whatever it was. Forbes did a story about me. It came out in May of 2005. It said Ross Mandell was back with a flair, selling stock and buying politicians.
Buying politicians.
Right. And so that was very true. I bought a lot of politicians, and I had senators on my board, members of Congress, members of Parliament. I ended up going public twice in London. I had presidential appointees. In fact, the border czar, Tom Homan, who Trump just appointed, the number one guy at Homeland Security, the border czar, he worked for me. He was on my board from 2003 to 2007. I had a Homeland Security company. Tom Homan, great guy. Tommy, big shout out. He's the right man for the right job at the right time.
I like him too.
Great selection. Really serious guy, and was a great guy. I never had it, never had an issue. And make a long story short, so that they called that like Ross Mandell 2.0. I went from this wild balls to the wall stockbroker, in the 80s, drunk, stoned, wheeling and dealing. They used to call me Big Balls Ross, that kind of thing. And then all of a sudden in the 90s, I became very serious-minded and building brokerage firms and raising money and building a hedge fund and going public in London, all these different things, right? So that was Ross 2.0. Then all of a sudden I get arrested. I get indicted in 2009, the crash of the too big to fail, when all the banks failed and they bailed everybody, all the banks got bailed out by the government and they blamed me. Even though my firm never ran out of capital and never needed a bailout. But Goldman Sachs and Citibank and all JP Morgan and Chase, all of them, Wells Fargo, all had to get bailed out. AIG, the biggest insurance company in the world, went bust. It was missing $600 billion or whatever. Make a long story short, I get blamed. And I fight like crazy. My case was real horse shit. To this day, nobody knows what I did wrong. Nobody can figure it out. And they sentenced me to jail, 12 years in prison.
12.
Yeah. Now I end up going in. I did 112 months, which is 9 years, 4 months. And I got out this past January of 24, January 10th. So you understand what happens to Ross now. This is now Ross 3.0. Well, I'm podcasting and I'm on social media and I'm releasing a lot of content. And I'm on Catalina Magee's podcast, probably the toughest podcast I've been on.
Gosh, we didn't even get to the hard part.
Okay, I love it. But you said an existential question. It's like, God, what do you have in store for me now? Will I ever get to walk my daughter down the aisle? My daughters, will I ever be a grandfather? Will I'm 67. I mean, will I lose my mind at some point? Will I just drop dead like my father? Will I get sick? These are all kinds of thoughts that I don't really think about any of these things. But since you asked me, this is Ross 3.0. I'm building a company called Raw Media. I believe this is a new media for the new day. Catalina, you and I have an audience, and we could speak to the world. There's no agenda but what you want, what I want. And we have our own little networks, our own little platforms, and we can deliver a message. We can deliver entertainment. And, I'm not beholden to some government agency or to some special interest group or advertiser. We just, I'm answering your questions honestly and openly, and you haven't given me any, advance warning about these questions. It's happening live, and it's real. It's authentic. And I think people are tired, and I'm sick and tired of the bullshit, the nonsense, the garbage that we've been fed by the governments and the major media. I'm sick of it. And, when Donald Trump wanted to deliver his message to the world, he didn't go to the BBC. He didn't go to ABC or 60 Minutes. He went to Joe Rogan. You know what I'm saying? And he went on a podcast and 30 million downloads in 12 hours because it was real. And people are tired of the packaged bullshit. And so I love it. And that's why it's called Raw Media. And I'm the headliner right now. And we're looking for talent. And
nice.
Studio in Delray, Florida, studio in Miami, and a lot of things coming.
What kind of talent are you looking for?
I'm looking for talent. I'm looking for people that can deliver interesting and exciting information like we're doing now. Podcasting. I'm looking for influencers, people that can grab eyeballs and attention. I'm looking for talent. I've been invited, so I haven't said it yet, but I've been invited to speak in 2 arenas next year.
Nice.
At these big sort of conferences. I'm an expert at selling. I'm an expert at moving crowds. I was paid. I'm not a social media creation. So, I was on the front page of newspapers before social media existed. I made hundreds of millions of dollars long before social media existed, before the internet, buying and selling companies. I've taken over 100 companies public. I founded, funded, and even floated, took them public. Maybe there's a handful of people in the world that have done what I've done. And so, I have so much to offer the world. I've become an educator. So I wrote a business curriculum because I'm tired of all the nonsense. I know a lot of young men that just got out of master programs and went to the best business schools, and they don't know a thing. They know so little about the world, about business. So I created the wealth formula. So an average person, can pick up for $300 my curriculum and understand more about business than a kid that graduated from the Wharton School and got an MBA for $200,000 from Stanford. And I challenge any MBA program in the United States right now, my curriculum versus your curriculum. It's 114 pages of digital text, hyperlinks to source material, downloadable worksheets and PDFs, 14 very entertaining chapters where I explain the material and I explain to the audience, I explain to you how I learned about which legal entity to choose. Is it a corporation, S Corp, C Corp, versus, let's say, an LLC or an LLP? Is it onshore, offshore? Do you want to incorporate in the Bermuda, the Bahamas, or incorporate in Delaware, or the great state of Nevada, where Raw Media is incorporated currently, in a constitutional state like Wyoming or Alaska? I mean, we teach you how to structure a deal, how to price a deal. We teach you how to value your deal, how to present it, how to document it, how to exit. I mean, we take you on a journey, and I've never seen anything that's even remotely a contest. Because when I did get out of prison, I ordered every single business curriculum that existed on social media online. A lot of people that are highly regarded on social media and in this sort of influencer world really never did anything in real life. They're concocted. They appear to be great salesmen on social media, but they've never earned $10 million a year. They've never earned $100 million net worth. They've never produced work product in business and owned a business where they employed 1,000 people. I've done all those things times 10. And so I really want to become an educator. And I also love, Catalina, what we talked about earlier in this podcast, because I'm an expert on addiction, on
Mm-hmm.
recovery, on scripture. I've spent a good deal of my life reading and studying these subjects. And because I was trained as a communicator during my whole business life, I'm able to sort of reasonably, transfer knowledge because I'm I'm like what they call a plain speaking guy. I try not to speak in, highfalutin words that three
Eloquent.
people in the world understand.
Right.
I go out of my way to speak on an even playing field with my audience. I can't stand people that are so smug and full of themselves and they get on camera and they talk. They try and dress up the words they use and impress you with their vocabulary, etc. I love a
Right.
plain speaking man that I can understand what he's talking about. I'm not one of
Yeah,
those
that
people that go
real.
like this, and then I say, what are you saying? They say, I don't know. I don't just nod my head because, the rest of the sheep are doing it.
That's crazy. Some people just use a lot of neologisms just to be eloquent, but at the same time, what's the point if your point didn't get across? Like, if you really didn't make any point, what was all that for?
Yeah. Well, a lot of
Just to
people,
look sophisticated.
they're more interested in what you think of them than in you actually being great. I'm interested in being great, not acting so you think I'm great. I'm actually
Right.
in being great, at different things. Again, I can't play the piano. And I'm not going to break out my guitar and start strumming these beautiful tunes for you, Catalina. We're
You
all,
lost me then, Russ. You lost me.
I'm sorry. And I'm not going to take you on a weekend where we're going to paint and, stare at the lilies, the water lilies, but I do appreciate the finer things in life. And I'm happy to work for them and earn them. And I'm like, what I like to say, I'm just a regular guy.
That's nice. You know your strengths, you know your weaknesses. That's when you actually know yourself. Well, looking back, what would you say? What is it that one thing that made you feel most alive?
Most alive, you really want to know?
Hmm.
Sex.
Why?
Because I have a lot of love in my heart, and I'm a very passionate man, and I try to be great at things. I don't do things and just try to be like okay or average. I try to be great. So, when I was a young man, I had these notions of, Don Juan and Romeo and all these different things. I was never tall, dark, and handsome. Everybody say he's so cute, he's so funny. So you
Really?
learn to use your things that God has given you, that, you know what I mean, your talents. But, I'll never forget, making love to a woman. Some of the women that I've had in my life have made me feel so alive, that those private moments when you share, the openness, the trusting, the getting to know each other, it's fascinating to me. It's like a big deal, right?
So, what is love to you?
It's changed over the years. I think that I often confuse love and lust. But I also believe that they do go hand in hand. See, to me, lust is a good thing. Lust for life. I lust gratitude. Sometimes I'm just not grateful. I'm not a grateful person naturally. And I understand the value of gratitude. And sometimes I have to go look for my gratitude. So, lust to me is, a determination. But, what's happening with me because of the crazy journey I've been on, trust is really important part of love. Consistency, being able to depend on somebody. It's not just a physical attraction. I'm a big believer in chemistry. I believe that, uh, our mates, like our lifetime sort of mates, you know. So it's very interesting. I studied Kabbalah when I was inside prison. The Kabbalah is based on 24 huge volumes called the Zohar. It's 24 books. Each book is about 1,100 pages long, and and it says that God basically, right before He sends you down to be born in this world, this material world, this is called Malchut. It's the lowest world that exists. And he's obviously in the highest world. And there's 9 worlds in between. And he takes your soul and cuts it in half. And he puts it in a baby, and that's half. And when you're spiritually ready, your half might actually find the other half. So I'm thinking about it. I said, what about someone that has like multiple, wives and this and that? And they were like, well, it could be your soul might have been cut up into 8 pieces. You don't know. And there's potential, all these different people out there that were your soulmates. That's where they get the word soulmate from.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I was early in my life a very big believer in the smell and taste theory. Like I could, let's say be with a woman or just out and smell, and you kiss, whatever, and you taste, and you almost know if there's a connection that way. I do believe that we have, and now years later with the social media, the pheromones, it's literally a chemistry, just like, certain, I used to have this dog, and my dog would run up and right away they're smelling each other's butts. Right away. There's no discussion. There's no small talk. Don't buy me a drink. I want to smell your ass. And right away, we know if we're going to be friends. It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
You look at the animals, and we're just one step
Animal
removed.
instinct.
But so to me, love has taken many forms, but I think respect is a new thing in my vocabulary. Being able to respect, a woman, to be attracted to that woman, to trust that woman, to be able to depend on that woman. You see, I've always been I can take care of myself guy. And then I told you what happened when I got clean and I asked for help, and that whole story about first dating when I was newly sober. I had never been with a woman clean, sober. I had never done anything sober. I had to relearn like everything, re-experience everything, because I was always so stoned and drunk or whatever since I'm 16. And in my 30s, it was like being a teenager again. But words like respect and trust are a big part of love for me today. I'm scared to tell you, Catalina, I think I'm starting to grow up.
That's awesome. But you don't want to give up that that child in you, though.
No,
You
don't worry.
still want to hold on.
According to women that I know, I'm about as emotionally mature as like an 18-year-old boy. I'm still frisky.
That is so awesome. I'm still frisky. I'm actually, we're talking about women and all that now. What are your thoughts on this new age independent woman that is making her own money and all that? Is that a woman that you would respect, or would you have more respect for the traditional woman that stays home, cleans and cooks all day? What is the...
It's very interesting because a lot of my views on women now have been shaped because I have 2 daughters now.
Mm-hmm.
I have 2 grown women now in my life that they tell me what's up. And
What's up?
They tell me what's up. And, they're very powerful young women. And one of them's in business, and she's a killer. She's an absolute stone cold killer. And a wonderful woman. Like their mama, they're beautiful. I like to say that I was very shallow when I was younger, and I looked at the packaging. And my ex-wife, Stephanie, is a gorgeous woman and always was and always will be, like physically. But she's more beautiful on the inside, And my daughters are just like the mom. They're beautiful. They're packaged beautifully. Whenever they walk in a room, everybody knows, right? It's like that. But one of them is a technology recruiter. She's just a killer. I mean, a top producer, and she's in business 2 years, and, against people that are doing this 30 years. And she's very competitive. My other one is just finished a degree at the University of Florida in 3 years, graduated cum laude. And now she's applying.
Nice.
She applied to law school this past weekend. And she's working at a law firm. And
Very nice.
The senior partner just called me up and said, your daughter is a clerk. She's been here a month and she's running the whole firm now.
Wow.
These are my girls they're hungry almost to be good and to be great. And that's what I chased. And that makes me feel good. I married my assistant. When I met her, she was 22. I was 38, 39. I was a multimillionaire. And we had similar goals. I wanted her I didn't want her to work. I wanted her to take care of our home, build a nice home. We bought several homes. furnish those homes and make sure my stuff is looked after because I'm working. I owned a big stock brokerage business and all that kind of thing. And I wanted her to, stay home with my family and raise our children and organize our family because what do I know? I'm just a guy and I never had any sisters and there were no women in my family, just my mother who was almost like a guy.
Wow.
She was a beast. And so we had a more traditional family, a more traditional relationship. And then all of a sudden, they sent me to prison one day.
Hmm.
And my poor family had to do without me.
Yeah.
It's like 9 years. It
Jeez.
was brutal, on them. And so it's really shaped them. I don't, what a woman does is not how I look at her. I look at a person for who they are as a person. Are they a good person? Are they not a good person? Are they honest? Or are they dishonest? I had great deal of respect and love for my young wife. Her job was working for me initially. I paid her $16,000 a year. She was making $400 a week. Back when I hired her, and she was my assistant, and I loved her and I respected her, and I wanted to have children with her, and we did all those things. And I didn't love her any less. Now there was a woman in my life, 30 years prior, who I loved, who was a psychotherapist who got her MSW, got a mass social worker license, and she had a big practice on Long Island. She was one of the biggest sort of marriage counselors and therapists. So, and I always had a lot of respect for her because that's what she wanted to do. But it's not what you do, it's
Hmm.
who you are. I think that's more important to me. As I I don't mean that to be just like funny, to give you a good answer. I really mean that. Like if we went out, we had coffee, or we went for dinner, we would be talking just like we're talking now, and I would be trying to understand the kind of person you are. Are you what I call a quality person, or are you not? That's what listen. I think two people to connect, have to be able to laugh together, to sit quietly together, right? Maybe
Right,
watch,
right.
just to sit on the couch, and it doesn't always have to be talking. There has to be some sort of a connection. You have to be comfortable with somebody. So, it's that sort of a thing. It took me a long time
Hmm.
to be able to be comfortable just with myself. I can be like an edgy guy,
Hmm.
but again, it's to me, it's more important. All my life, if you said to me, "Hi, who are you?" I'd say, "I'm a stockbroker. I'm a trader. I'm a deal guy. I'm a CEO." And the question is, no, who are you?
Yeah.
All
Right.
my life, I was identified by what I did, and it took me a long time to understand that's not what people are really asking. They're not asking what I
Right.
do for money or for a living. Who am I? I'm Ross Mandell. I'm a good guy. I'm generous. I try to express my gratitude every day. People tell me I'm funny. I'm witty. I like to have fun. I'm not serious minded. In the sense that you would find me, let's say, withdrawn and boring. I'm very social. I'm very outgoing. I love people.
Hmm.
I love to go out for dinner. I love to travel. That's who I am, right? It's not what I am. I'm just a guy,
Right. I like that. Yeah, it's very difficult to put it all in one answer.
right?
Like that's kind of a rhetorical question. When people come to me with, "Who are you?" You mean like, what am I made of? But how am I supposed to answer that in one sentence? Like that takes time.
Yeah, I'll tell you a funny thing. So, like, I have a lot of friends now, my age, that on these dating sites, like
Hmm.
Tinder and Match and all these different things. And, they're like, "Hey, what do you think?" I said, "What do you mean? Let me read you something."
God.
My name is this, and I like to do this and that. I'm like, bro, is that really you? I don't
Yeah.
know if that,
Walk on the beach.
right. It sounds good because I don't like any of those things. I mean, so it's really like, it's really funny in today's world, trying, so when they were writing my website, they kept writing, I didn't write all this stuff that's on my site, some of the things that you read. People basically interviewed me and, they said, what do you think? I said, that's all right. I don't even want to judge myself, but it has to be accurate. And is this accurate? Is this really you? Does this sound right? All these different things.
Yeah, that's actually, they did a good job with that. I want to ask you this is kind of considered like, a little parentheses, a little break, I guess I would say, but it's not really a break because I'm going to make this a reel. And you would have to respond with yes or no only.
Only?
And the only.
Boy, that's tough.
Yes. We'll start. Do you believe in UFOs?
Yes.
Have you ever forgotten a loved one's birthday?
Yes.
Is it ever justifiable to tell a lie?
Yes.
Do you believe in climate change?
Yes.
Is climate change primarily caused by human activity?
No.
Do you think the education system needs reform?
Yes.
Should the death penalty be abolished?
No.
Should we have separate jails for trans people?
Yes.
Is technology doing more harm than good?
No.
Is it ethical to eat meat?
Yes.
Can money buy happiness?
Yes.
Is it possible to achieve world?
Yes.
Should countries have open borders?
No.
Man, we answered the same. Me and you are on the same page. Wow. Minus, I think the meat. I keep going back and forth on that because I love animals. And just the only thing is I was vegan for 6 years and then I got sick. So I realized that's not it. Being vegan is too hardcore.
When you
it's
say
an extreme.
when you say you got sick, what does that mean?
Anemic. I was very anemic. I was very, very skinny. And then I would be so weak to a point where I would faint.
Well, that's not good.
Yeah. So the doctors said, you need to start eating fish and chicken at least. I can't do cows. I just can't because I remember watching Earthlings. It's a documentary. And after watching that, I remember the cows being upside down and the way they were slaughtered. I can't.
My ex-wife saw the same thing and hasn't eaten meat for 6 years.
Wow.
I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
She eats chicken. She eats seafood, but no meat.
Yeah, I can't do the
Zero.
beef and all the, yeah.
But fish,
yeah,
chicken,
interesting. Very interesting.
So I guess I guess when I come to Vegas, we're not going to go to Fleming's Steakhouse.
Hell no! Unless I'm having mashed potatoes.
We'll go for sushi. We'll go for sushi. You eat sushi?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I can do. Yeah, pescatarian. I can. Yeah.
All right.
I'm on. We haven't actually. I'm interested why you said that. What were your thoughts? Having been in jail for so long, you answered that we should have jails for trans people. I want to know what is your.
Let me share what I meant. It was a tough question because I don't think we should have separate jails, but we should have separate units within the jails.
Units. Okay.
I think the trans people, it's very dangerous in prison for them. Very dangerous. In fact, there are predators in all prisons. I mean, that's the people. Most of the people that are locked up are predators by nature. And they look to prey on weak people, confused people. They look to isolate people, etc. And, one of the things that there was some men, I used to chair an AA group in prison. And I knew a lot of the guys, and a lot of guys would come in. And right before a couple of guys were being released, they hugged me and said, I just want you to know you were right. I'm a homosexual. And I didn't know that. And they hid that. And they acted very manly and all these different things.
Wow.
But I understood why they didn't want to be open about it. Because there are predators. And if predators in prison, if they know you're a homosexual, they feel entitled that they can take you, that you're going to have to give them sex. And they corner you and they extort you and, they threaten you with a knife and a beating and they rape and all these things happen. I've witnessed it. I've seen it with my own eyes. I mean, things it's hard to even, I'm very descriptive by nature, but some of the things are really crazy. And, if they know, some of these predators, these groups of guys, whatever, know that a man is a homosexual, they feel that you're going to have to give them sex. It's really like crazy. Prison is very violent and it's brutal and it's unjust. They're not run. People don't grow up and say, you know what, Dad, I want to grow up. I want to work in a male prison. So to make a long story short, I think there should be very serious segregation. I feel like if someone is trans or going through this kind of thing, whatever, they cannot be in the general population. It's very dangerous, and I think
Where
it's
would you put
unjust.
right? Where would you put, say, someone was born female
Right,
and then transitioned to a male,
right,
right?
right.
Where would you put this person? Which category jail? Is it a male because it's currently a male, or because was born female, might not be strong and might not have,
It's a big deal, just so you know. But I mean, certainly, if somebody has a penis, they shouldn't be in a female prison, and that's already happened. And men have been convicted of rape, even though they say they're females. They have a penis. Like I have two daughters. There should be no person with a penis allowed in a woman's restroom. I don't care what they call themselves. And I think that if somebody is transitioning or believes they were born in the wrong body, that's fine. But if somebody's a man and what's on a dress, I don't consider you a woman. If you ask me, if you have a penis, you're still a man. I don't care what you can. I tell this story a lot, Catalina. When I left prison, I was being discharged, and there's a guy sitting at a table, and he says, "Mr. Mandell, we have to just do some questions." I said, "Okay," and name, where you going to be? You have an address? Does anybody live at that address? Do they have a criminal record? Is there going to be a gun in the house? No, 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 no. He said, "Okay." The guy's looking at me. We're talking for like a few minutes. I got to ask you this, Mr. Mandell. I say, "What is your gender?" And I'm like, "Excuse me?" He says, "I have to ask you, Mr. Mandel, I'm sorry, but we have training and we had 3 days last month in specific training just for this. I know it sounds crazy." I said, "I don't understand." I said, "You're asking me what is my gender?" He says, "Yes, sir. I'm sorry." I said, "What are my choices?" He goes, "Let me show you." And he turns the paper around. There's 8 different boxes. And after 8 different boxes, there's another box that says other. I said, "What's non-binary?" I don't even understand all this. I think like the
Yeah.
world went a little crazy. But then after that whole thing, it says, "What gender were you born?" There's only 2 choices. So, I believe in freedom of choice, but I also believe in the concept of insanity. I think that the world lost its mind a little. I believe there are only 2 genders, period. They're male and they're female. Now, I'm told that if a male goes through a certain amount of treatments and a lot of hormones, a lot of stuff, operations, and then has his penis removed, and that they can take a scalpel and they can make the penis into a vagina, that to me is a different story. Now, there's no penis. It's been surgically removed and altered, and I think there's an exception there, in my opinion. But it's a slippery slope. So if you're talking about incarceration, I think that some consideration should be given to these people and that they should have a separate unit within a certain prison where these are people that are undergoing this sort of transitioning or surgery or hormone treatments, etc. But I also, Catalina, I believe that, under Ronald Reagan in the 80s, we did away with mental hospitals. I don't know if you know this. People just are not familiar with this. They did away with all mental institutions. And someone said, "So I asked, where did they put people that would have been in a mental?" They put them in prison, federal prison. So there's people that say there's 122 mental institutions in America. Those are the federal prison system.
Interesting.
And that's wrong. And they did this because it was costing the insurance companies too much money, et cetera. It was all about money. And I think compassion left this conversation. And I think that as a society, we have to be a lot more compassionate. There are people that are unwell mentally. There are people that are unwell emotionally. And that's okay. These are medical conditions, just like cancer, diabetes, addiction. You know how I knew? I used to think that I couldn't stop doing drugs and alcohol, that I was weak. I thought I was weak. I tried quitting 100 times. I knew I had a problem, Catalina. I would swear off cocaine, swear it off. I'd go 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden I'd wake up. I was up to 3 days ordering another 8-ball for my drug dealer. But let me tell you how I knew that I was sick. I wasn't weak. Because my bill was $33,000 after 28 days at the Silver Hill Foundation in New Canaan, Connecticut. And the insurance company paid the bill. Insurance companies don't pay because someone's weak. They pay because somebody's sick. It was a disease, and they paid. You understand? And that's how I was able, in my mind, to understand I was sick. I mean, it's an interesting thing, but
Right.
that's how the world looks at addicts and alcoholics as people that are weak.
Mm-hmm.
People are sick. Addiction is a disease. So is mental illness. I'm not saying that about transitioning. All I'm saying is, yes, about jail.
Right.
I'm very familiar with the prison system. You could call me an unqualified. I am an expert. I have been at a prison, 2 prison camps, federal detention center, 3 county jails, 2 court jails. I mean, I slept on the floor. I slept on boats. I've been in solitary confinement. I've been in the hole. I've been in the shoe. I've been locked down. I've been locked up. I've been cuffed. I've been black boxed, all these things. So I am really an expert. I think that when the state takes away your freedom, and I'll tell you another thing, so I don't want the audience to misunderstand this. People say, what's the most important thing you learned when you were in prison?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Thank God that there are prisons.
Interesting.
There are some bad dudes that deserve to be locked up. There are some bad people in the world. And sometimes you need walls and rooms and tough cops. I mean that. I mean, thank God for the police. Thank God for the authorities. I mean, so it's, again, it can be a slippery slope, but thank God.
Many say that American prisons are too luxurious and that taxpayer money should be cut and used for other purposes. Would you agree? Or
That's comedy. I mean, we have some of the worst prisons in the world. I mean, if you look at the prisons in Scandinavia, in Germany, everybody has their own room. Everybody has computers, laptops. You could go out for the day. You can have your family stay over. Yeah, even in Russia, in the worst prisons in Russia, your family can come stay with you for the weekend. Of course. We have one of the most inhumane prison systems in the world, only to be rivaled by China. Even in Russia, the prisons are not as bad as America. It's just crazy. Anyone that feels that way should try spending a year in federal prison. They will never feel that way again.
Really?
It's funny because most of the people that talk about prison, write about prison, hypothecate about prison, all right, and have opinions, opine, never spent a day in prison. It's a joke. I mean,
they work you guys? I heard they work you really hard. Like a lot of the stuff is made in prison.
Correct. They make you work. They pay 17 cents an hour. It's really modern day slavery. This is a whole nother podcast. I want you to understand that. The whole thing needs to be torn down and rebuilt.
The whole thing.
Yeah. And by the way, whoever wrote that opinion, the only thing they got right is they're robbing the taxpayers left, right, and center. Left, right, and center. There's so much theft and corruption. It's frightening. I just want you to understand that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's going to be a whole nother podcast for sure. But to talk a little bit about finance, I know everybody's asking you money questions. That's why I'm just going to do my own thing because he's more than just a financial guru. But I do want to cover a couple of things for those that are specifically watching this to hear, to get some tips and tricks to the stock market. What can they learn from you? Are there any tips, anything that they can learn at a glance, something that they might not know?
A couple of things, I would just see, to be general, be careful. Don't trust many people that give advice. A lot of people that give advice they're just really not that capable of giving advice. When it looks great, you want to sell it. And when it looks shitty, that's when you want to buy it. The old thing is that you buy low and you sell high. So your emotions are the exact opposite. When you drive through a neighborhood and you see the big shiny home with the beautiful landscaping and the great furniture and all the fancy lighting, that's you got to sell. When you see a shack that's run down on this property that's all littered and landscaped poorly and the road is shitty, now that's an interesting thing to buy. So it's like that. When everybody else is buying it, you want to think about selling it. And when
Mm.
everybody else is dumping it and says, I don't like this, this is garbage, that's when I start really looking. That's when it becomes attractive to me. So it's very, very difficult because the proper discipline goes exactly against your emotions.
So
Everybody's
when
saying,
they
wow, NVIDIA is
zigzag.
great. We got to buy it. Look at NVIDIA. It's the best company in the world, featuring all these different things. Guess what? I'll be a seller. Okay. Now, I'm not talking about NVIDIA. NVIDIA is one of those rare companies that, I've been recommending since it's $80. And it just keeps going. It's going to keep going higher, and they have really an incredible business, and it's because of the specialty chips and AI and all these different things. Plus, it was structured right. It was brilliantly done, and right place, right time as well. But typically, you have to have certain disciplines. Okay, if it's too good to be true, it's probably not true. I mean, here's the thing I say to people, and it's really important that people should hear this. This is the best piece of advice. Reach out to me. DM me. That's how we met, Catalina, right? RossMandell.com. info@RossMandell.com. DM me. I'm on every social media platform. For the first time in the history of humankind, anybody can reach out to pretty much anybody. You can approach people. If you have a question about editing or audio, you can reach out to John DeZoro for the first time in history, and he might just get back to you. Ask a question. If you want to know about the health of sea turtles and beach conservation, you can reach out to Florida Sea Turtle Company. They will answer you back and so forth. If you want to learn about podcasting, you can reach out to famous podcasters. If you want to reach out to famous salesmen and learn and maybe take classes or go to seminars, you can actually do that. Never before in history has an average person had the ability to reach out directly to some of the most creative people in the world, some of the smartest money people in the world, some of the greatest orators in the world, some of the greatest executives in the world. If you really are looking, you can be coached by greatness. Okay, I have a mastermind program right now, and young men are reaching out to me, and they're signing up for my mastermind, and they're getting 10 hours with me. Personal time
Wow.
with me. And I think they're like
Amazing.
mesmerized. I'm mesmerized because I can't imagine that I could be so influential and I can help change the trajectory of so many lives over a course of 10 hours. I am literally able to. I have vexed businesses. I have taken guys that, were just really in a state of confusion with depression with their business stuff. And I have, just by doing some things and making calls and setting up meetings and opening up some doors, been able to change their lives. And just like when I wanted to get into online education, I wanted to deliver my product. I was able
Hmm.
to reach out and get in touch with Brad Lee from Lightspeed. Guy did 900 million last year. He has Tony Robbins, Andy Elliott, Grant Cardone, Damon John from Shark Tank, Robert Kiyosaki, the rich dad, poor dad guy. I got him on the phone. Spoke to me. Now we're
Nice.
partners. The wealth formula, my curriculum is, I have a store on his platform right next to Grant Cardone and Robert Kiyosaki and Tony Robbins. So for the
Very
first time
nice.
in history, it's all available to us.
Where can people buy your curriculum
My
and your
curriculum, you
masterclass?
just go to any of my, Ross Mandell, the real Ross Mandell on
Okay.
YouTube, Ross Mandell on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I've got a personal page. I got a fan page. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on TikTok, for God's sakes. And just go to the link. It says Ross Mandell Training. You just click on that. It'll take you right through, and you could go ahead and sign up for my course, my mastermind, rossmandell.com. You can just inquire info@rossmandell.com. My team will get back to you. We respond to everybody. One day we have 400 inquiries. It was crazy. They were out till like 3 a.m, screaming at me. But I made them answer every single inquiry throughout the course of a whole day. And we're going to be doing a lot of really great things and some really cool things this coming year in 2025. But I'm available. It's just amazing, right?
Amazing. It is. And you have so much to offer,
Thank
from
you.
wisdom, from life wisdom to these amazing finance, wealth, all that knowledge on finance and wealth, like real stuff, not just wanna be all these amateur hour stuff that everybody's trying to sell. No, this is the real deal.
Thank
So
you.
I highly encourage you guys to go on this website and change your life. Who were your mentors and what did they teach you, Ross?
So, I have a few mentors. I like to say that the great Tony Robbins is a personal mentor. I look up to him. I had a lunch with him in 1986. I was a young guy. I was 29. We were at a stock brokerage firm, D.H. Blair, 44 Wall Street, and we went and saw Tony Robbins. We had a private lunch with him in Madison Square Garden during the break. And he's still going. He's still doing his thing. And now I have a store next to his. It's a personal accomplishment that really blows my mind. A guy named Morton Davis, J. Morton Davis. He goes by J. Morton Davidovich. He was chairman of D.H. Blair. Morty was shaken. He's on the Forbes billionaire list. He taught me so much about the business. A guy named David Bleck. David, shout out. Also taught me a lot about private equity, structuring stock deals, and understanding how to put boards together and create optics and wheel and deal with syndicates in the street, etc. I want to say hello to Alexander Dumas and Peter Shea. These are fellas that helped me out a great deal. Matthew Carrington in London helped me get public over there and do some really crazy and great things.
Very nice. Wow. Like huge names here. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a bunch of really, really, really great men that I found somehow during the course of
That's
my
amazing.
my escapades.
Sounds like those are blessings. God must like you, Ross.
Well, God is he's been I wish he didn't trust me so much because boy, oh boy, they say he'll never give you more than you can handle, and I wish he didn't trust me so much.
You sure?
You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. That's sounds like you're a tough cookie. Do you want to go with another game or do we want to wrap it up?
It's
How do you
up
feel?
to you. I could do one more game. Why not?
Okay. And this game says you must choose one and argue your position. We have three questions. Are humans cooperative or competitive?
So I'm going to go with competitive. However, that's because this human is very competitive. I once did my own survey, my own game, and I said, "Are you a sheep or a shepherd?" And I argued with my wife at the time. I said, "Everyone's going to say they're a shepherd. Who's going to say they're a sheep?" And she laughed at me and says, "I'm a sheep, and I'm very happy being a sheep. Too risky to be a shepherd. I wouldn't want to be leading. I like to be in the middle of the pack where it's safe." And I'm looking at her like she's nuts. And I interviewed 1,000 people. And out of 1,000 people, over 940 of them said they were very comfortable being a sheep.
Hmm.
They didn't want to be a shepherd. They were very proud of being a sheep. I was shocked. Everybody I know, I said, is a shepherd. Who wants to say they're a sheep? But people feel there's safety in numbers and all that. I'm from the competitive side where, yes, it is risky. Yes, it's dangerous. Yes, there's an element of if you go wrong, you are at great risk. It's much easier to stay in the middle of a pack. But I personally like to see myself and the people around me as competitors, all vying for greatness and to be special. And that's,
Right.
essentially where we're
Huh.
at.
I think although humans are predisposed to being cooperative by nature, I think ultimately it's that competitive tendency that, develops within, especially within groups, that drives the majority of cultures to exist and excel. Like if we didn't have that competitive edge, we wouldn't be able to progress.
I agree.
So,
And I think
yeah.
that people like you and I are in the competitive side.
Yeah.
We're podcasting. A lot of people are going to be listening, and you know why they're cooperating.
Yeah, but look at during the pandemic, for
Right.
example. You remember, like, were only very few that understood what was really happening. But then you had all the rest of them, all the sheep,
Correct?
the
Sheep and
majority.
shepherds.
Yep. So yeah,
There's a lot of comfort in being a sheep.
and it's crazy. They were just being taken to the slaughter, and they were just walking.
Literally. Yeah, I hate to say it. Nursing homes, letting people die, no funerals. I mean, what the fuck?
thrown in trash bags.
Disgusting.
People can't even attend
What disgusting.
And yeah, I'm not even going to go there because they already took 2 of my episodes down on YouTube. So I'm not trying
You
to
gotta be very, very careful.
I
Sorry
know,
about that.
crazy, huh? No, I'm the one that brought it up. I take any opportunity to bring that
I
up.
love it.
But second question, the most important problems in the world today are the lack of integrity, compassion, or faith.
You said faith? Is it the last one?
Yes.
Yeah. So I would say, faith, because with faith comes integrity, and with faith comes compassion. When you really believe in a God that's good and that he wants well for you in spite of whatever your circumstances are, I think the lack of faith is causing a lot of trouble in the world and in this country. They took God out of the schools. It's a degree of insanity. I'm a grain of sand in this universe, and we all living so self-importantly. It's like a joke.
Right.
I believe that faith, and with all the great advances in science, they have yet to disprove all the faith that really leads the major religions in the world. Scientifically, they all still hold water, even with all the advancements. And some would argue that with all the advancements in science, they're proving out the fact that there was a higher power, that we were created, all these different things. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I say faith.
I'm with you.
Baby.
I'm with you on that. Yeah. What about, so the third one is, what's worse, corruption, globalization, or starvation?
One more time. Corruption?
Globalization?
Globalization?
Yeah. Or
it's a tough question. I would say that it's hard to believe that there's starvation in this world in the year 2024. There's just so much food product, and there's so much wealth, abundance, and all that there are people that are still going hungry is so wrong on so many levels. Corruption is part of the human dynamic. I mean, it's part of what makes people human. We are corrupt. Karl Marx said it best.
lack of faith.
All these forms of government would work, except that humans are corrupt. And globalization, I sort of understand that movement, but that's just like a wolf in sheep's clothing, in my opinion. People using, if I was the richest guy in the world, I want everybody to be my sheep too and obey me and follow my order. So, I don't really buy into that. It hasn't been sold right yet. But starvation is a real problem because there are people that are going hungry. There are kids in this country. There are kids in the state of Florida that don't have any food right now. And when I was in prison, I was locked away. I know what starvation is. They locked me in a room for a month. Okay. And they gave me 3 trays a day that between the 3 of them, if I got 1,000 calories, it was a miracle. There were bugs in the food. It was stale. A lot of it was spoiled, and there was no one to appeal to. And I was hungry, and I lost 30 pounds during a 5-week period because they just didn't give us any food. There was no commissary. Everything was locked down. COVID was running around. The cops didn't even want to come in contact with the inmates. Everybody was so afraid. And, I was hungry, and I remember saying, this is what it feels like to be fucking hungry. I couldn't believe it. And the food was so disgusting, and then you're so hungry, it's just like you could eat anything. You chew on cardboard. And it was really a lesson because I'd never really experienced hunger in my life. And I would say probably 98% of the people that listen to you, to podcasts and stuff, have no idea what we're talking about. But hunger, there are kids that will go to bed tonight without a meal. And that's wrong. That is corruption. And there's no excuse for that. And it's a shocking fact. And we should all have a little bit of embarrassment. I know that I throw out food every day, leftovers and this and that. And I overbuy and overorder and all these different things. But I'm sorry to go off the subject like that, but it's a crazy thought, right? People are starving in this day and age.
Yes. You have no idea. Yeah, I remember I had to make a sandwich one day, which was made of toilet paper and mustard. So that was the sandwich. That's all I could eat that day.
Wow.
Sometimes, yeah, I had my little. So yeah, and I see we have a routine where we drive around Las Vegas, and then we feed all the homeless people. Now they know us by name. We know their names.
That's a beautiful thing, Catalina. That's really, I
It's
feel it makes me feel really good about you right now.
I don't try to brag about it, but I feel it. And actually, I had a conversation with my pastor. I was telling him, I was like, I don't want to put this out there. I don't want to talk about what I'm doing because I don't want people to think, oh, she's bragging. But he actually made such a good point, and he said, no, it's how you're putting out. It's in the how you're packaging your good deed. If in your heart your intention is to influence others to do good,
Correct.
then it's not, you haven't actually, so it's not, it's different. It's very interesting. Like you just have to be able to do it with a joyful heart to welcome others to join you. And we actually have so many, we got a whole group now
I love it.
because they saw the love behind it, and they saw how all these people were so thankful, and they were coming, and then they were so happy afterward, and they're like, well, we want to be on board, so we're doing this thing now. It's amazing.
It's a
Yeah,
beautiful thing. And you know, you should share these things because now it makes me want to do that. And people should,
I think you
there are
should.
good people out there that should know these. You know, I believe in doing service and all these kind of things. I
Yeah.
try to be helpful. I try to give back, you know, you know, I'm just coming out of a rough bunch of years, you know, and even inside I did a lot of service, but God bless you, babe. That's great.
Yes, I know you have a big heart, and I think once you get on that path and try to help the homeless, you're gonna be all in.
I love it. You're right. I actually did. Now
Yes.
that you said it, I actually did feed the homeless. I speak for a group called the Nest of Love Foundation, and it's the woman that runs the chapters here in Florida reached out to me, and I fed the homeless, and I did it for a couple of months, and then I haven't. I really haven't been. I've been so busy, I haven't had time. But shame on me, right? I mean,
Yeah.
right in Fort
Well, not
Lauderdale. There
shame,
was
but
like hundreds of people lined up. We fed on a Sunday. It's crazy.
well, the thing is, I don't know about Florida, but out here in Vegas, it's illegal to feed them. So
It's illegal.
if you ever hear I'm in jail, that's why.
I'm
If
coming to get you, Catalina.
already the cops last time they were like, lady, you can't do that, you gotta leave. And I was like, oh crap. So but yeah, I don't know, it's ridiculous. Like seriously, we're not making any. Maybe if we were in, like, say a park, and they don't want litter, they don't want like trash or whatever, I get it. Or if I'm putting them in a harmful situation, say I'm stopping traffic, and I'm doing something. But no, they're underneath the bridge. Nobody goes there. Why
It's
are you messing with me? I'm just.
that is friggin' crazy. Crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, yes, Ross. One last question. What is your greatest accomplishment so far?
In life, my children. I have fathered, you know, ex-wife likes to take all the credit. But I made a small contribution and
Oh,
you know, they have my DNA and my name, and I was there. I cut the cord and all these different things. I signed the birth certificates, and I look at these two women, and they're beautiful, and they're loving, and you know, they're competitive, and they're full of zest and vigor, and I love them very much. That is my greatest achievement, that I was able to you know, bring these two women into existence.
nice. And would you do anything differently to improve your position as a father? What would you do differently to be an even better father?
I never would have went to prison, that's for sure. I would have done some things differently. My lawyers were involved in some very nefarious dealings with the government. I didn't know about it. They did bad things. They sort of set me up, and it was just a terrible thing. Terrible advice. That would be a whole podcast. My story is very public. I've sued them. I filed motions in court. There's been stories written about them, and Forbes wrote a story about them. Brenda Hamilton wrote a story about them. All these different things. Real low life, corrupt, bad dudes. It's part of that whole corruption thing. The government and the legal system and the way things operate, especially in New York and in the law. You see what's happening with Trump and all this bullshit. They call it
Yeah.
lawfare. I was a victim of lawfare long before Trump. I get it. I know what they've done to him. I experienced it personally. It's a horrible thing, and that's really, I would have changed that.
Wow.
But Otherwise, it's really been such a privilege to be here with you today.
I know you had just the heaviest podcast, the most difficult questions you've ever had, probably.
Very tough. You're very tough, Kat. I'll say that.
Yes, I am, but I try to, be easy on you.
I love it.
Just
I love
messing.
it. I can't wait to
I
meet
thought
you.
I can't wait to meet you too next time. So if you're ever in Vegas, please do
I
let
am
me
coming
know.
out to Vegas probably in February or March. And
Nice.
I'm,
I will be in Mexico in
of
March,
course,
but not for the whole month. So hopefully you're coming
hopefully I'll
the
be there in
days that
February. Yeah.
we'll coordinate for sure. Dinner's on me. So yes, I would love to hear more of your impressive
We'll
stories.
go out for some semi-vegan food.
Yeah, no, sushi. We'll do
All
sushi.
right. Yeah, I'm not a
So we'll
vegan. Not much
compromise.
of a vegan.
No,
But
you're
it's
not.
been
I
such
bet.
a privilege. I'm so excited to meet you. You have a great name in the podcasting
Thank you.
world.
Thank you.
Catalina
Thank
Magee is
you.
very highly thought of.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm very blessed.
So rossmandell.com or on all my social media sites.
Nice. And thank you so much for your time. Gosh, 2 hours. That went by so fast, Ross.
My
My
privilege. It
goodness.
was, right?
Thank you. Yes. Wish you all the best and I'll see you in February. And happy holidays.
And happy holidays, happy new year.
Thank you. Stay blessed. Thank you, my friend.